This video we're going to talk about average rate of change, and we're going to start by answering what is average rate of change. So by definition, the average rate of change is the ratio of the change, that's an N, in the dependent variable, to the change in the independent, I can't spell, hold on, independent variable. Now, you might be looking at that definition going, yep, that is not helpful in the slightest. So what I'm going to tell you is this. Average rate of change is probably best known as slope, right? You have dealt with slope in the past. And so when we talk about it, the difference is we might be looking at a graph where between our 2 points, it's not linear, and that's okay. All right. So how do we find average rate of change? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. One of the ways, if we are talking about slope, is rise over run. All right. Which rise is better known as the change in y over the change, this is your run, in x. All right. And if you look at two ordered pairs, it's generally referred to as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right. Now, all of this is what we're going to do to find some actual average rate of change. Now, each of the examples is going to be slightly different in terms of what you're given, and so you might do it a little bit differently. So, example number 1, find the average rate of change between the ordered pairs 5, -3, and -2, -1. So, we're given two ordered pairs here. So, this is going to be your x1, y1. This is going to be x2, y2. Now, why am I calling them y1 and y2 and x1 and x2? Simply because this ordered pair came first, this ordered pair came next. You can absolutely flip these around. It will not matter. And I'm going to use this last part of slope here where it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You want to be really careful with your ordered pairs and making sure that you're picking out the right y values go together and the right x values go together. So make sure you pay attention. So y2 is -1 minus y1 is -3. So yeah, we got a couple double negatives there. It's okay. x2 is -2 minus x1 is 5. All right, so if we look at that numerator, we've got a double negative here, which would become positive. So -1 plus 3 is just 2. And then -2 minus 5 is -7. Now, depending on your teacher's expectations, maybe you need to turn this into a decimal. I do not need you to. So we're just going to leave that as 2 over -7. If you wanted to write -2 over 7, those are identical. All right. But that's the average rate of change between that ordered pair. So example 2. This one looks a little bit different. And by the way, this is not an ordered pair. All right, so let's just start there. So it says using the table of values, so we have a table of values, determine the average rate of change over the interval -2, 4. Now, when you're given an interval like this, this is your first x value, this is your second x value. So you don't have any y values at all in what's given to you, at least not in that interval. What we do have, though, is a table of values. So I'm going to find this first x1. So -2 and 64 are right here. So this is my first ordered pair, right? That's what this table of values is. It's ordered pairs. So I've got -2, 64. And then I'm going to look for my next x value, which is 4, which is way down here. And I'm going to use the ordered pair for 40. Now, all those other numbers in the problem don't matter, right? It's not going to matter what any of these other numbers are doing. What matters is this x value of -2 is paired up with 64, so that makes my first ordered pair. This x value of 4 is paired up with 40, that makes my next ordered pair. Now that I've got the ordered pairs, I can do exactly what I did in example 1. So I'm going to take and mark these if you want to. So let's see, x1, y1, x2, y2. And again, I think I said this in the last example, order doesn't matter in terms of this could be x2, y2, and this could be x1, y1. You'd get the same answers. So I'm going to take my second y minus my first y over my second x minus my first x. All right, let's see. 40 minus 64 would be -24. 4 minus -2, that's going to become a plus. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Now in this case, I can reduce my fraction or actually completely divide it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so if I take -24 divided by 6, I get -4 as my average rate of change. All right. Now, some teachers might ask that you leave it as a fraction. That would be up to your teacher to decide. Okay, so you might want to double check with them for what their preference is. All right, example number 3, we have a graph. And we're asked to find the average rate of change over an interval here. And we have -4. So this is my first x value, and then 3, which is my second x value. Now, I don't have any ordered pairs here, but I do have a graph. So I'm going to find -4 and see where my graph is. So let's see, -4, and my graph is right here. Okay, now you absolutely could write this ordered pair. This would be -4, comma, and I want to double check my count, 2, 4, -6. Okay, and then I could go to my other point of 3. This is my second x value. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go all the way up here. So I have the point 38. Okay, now you 100% could do your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The other way to look at this is to look at simply the rise over the run. So from this point on the far left, we had to rise how much? Well, we can count it. All right. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we went up 14 units to get to that same height as this point. So that's our rise. And now, how far do we have to run? Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so if I put that together, my rise of 14 over my run of 7, well, that would give me an overall average rate of change of 2. Again, maybe your teacher wants to write it as 2 over 1. That's going to be up to your teacher's discretion. Okay, so whether you did this with slope formula or you just counted out on the graph, really whatever makes sense to you. All right, last one here, we're going to look at example number 4. Now, we don't have any ordered pairs, we don't have a graph, we don't have a table, but what we have is a function. And we're going to use this function with our interval. So let's see, we've got an x value here, right? x1 and x2, and we have this function. Now, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can split screen here. I need Desmos. All right, so let me go grab Desmos. And I'm actually going to show you 2 ways to do this as soon as Desmos pops up here. There we go. Okay, so let me get the split screen going. Okay, I am going to put this graph into Desmos. And so I'm just going to start writing it in. So 1 over 4, apparently I need to put the over part. There we go, 1 over 4. And then in parentheses, I've got x plus 6, close the parentheses, square it, minus 2x plus 12. There we go. Okay. So I can see the graph that I'm working with here, but honestly, I don't really want the actual graph. I want very specific points of what's happening here at -8 and what's happening here at 0. That's what I want to work with. So in Desmos, I believe you can hit the little, what I just did, let me hit it back. The little, I think it's called a cog or a gear. If you hit the little cog or gear here, it will pop up and you see this little table here. You can actually select a table of values. Now, the table of values may not give you the X values that you're looking for, right? We need -8 and we need 0. So let's see, -8 isn't on my list, but I can tap down here in the blank spot of the graph of the table and actually type in -8, and it will give me the function value. So at -8, our function is at 29. So my ordered pair here, -8, 29. And I also need when x is equal to 0. Now that was part of my graph, or part of my original table here. That's 0, 21. So 0, 21. And so using this, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Let me find my information here. There it goes. And now that I have this information, I can go ahead and use the slope formula. Okay, so take my second y value minus my first y value over my second x value minus my first x value. So 21 minus 29 is going to be -8, and 0 minus -8 is really just 0 plus 8, so that's 8. So that's going to equal -1. All right. So I hope this has helped with figuring out a lot of different ways of how you might see average rate of change and how you can find it, whether you have an ordered pair, whether you have a table